charged with murder. U.S. Marshals arrest a Cuero man in connection with a shooting in Pennsylvania. And a fourth teen now charged in an assault case in Jackson County.
Well, all the nice shower activity that we had this afternoon is sort of ended, but that was predictable. It starts at 2 o'clock and it ends at about 7 or 8 o'clock. We've got a good chance of getting more of that activity coming up for tomorrow and the next day, so we'll be talking about that coming up in a moment.
And the Houston Texans lock up its top draft pick with the first in franchise history, and also the Astros and Rangers are playing. That's coming up in sports.
You're watching 25 News now at 10. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Don Brubaker. Karina Garcia has the night off. New at 10, Victoria ISD will appoint a new District 2 trustee Tuesday evening. 25 News Now reporter Adarius McCormick has more on the applicants.
The Victoria ISD Board of Trustees accepted Dr. Estela de los Santos' resignation on July 5th. The board will now appoint a new person to fill her position. Their choices: Emmett Alvarez, Andrew Rokovich, and Bridget Marshall. Alvarez says his goal is to produce more than just graduates.
I want a successful student. You know, I want to do everything possible to not only have the student graduate, but come out prepared to either work or go to continue their education.
Andrew Rokovich says he's following in his grandmother's footsteps because she served years ago, but also has another agenda.
After I found out our only options are someone far left and someone a little slightly less left, I felt we had no choice. We had no other option but to get someone in there that has the principles and the belief systems that I have or I espouse to.
The last participant, Bridget Marshall, had this to say: "I have been preparing, but there's a lot to learn. I will work to get fully caught up. I look forward to putting my 22 years of experience in education to work." Reporting in Victoria, I'm Adarius McCormick, KAVU-TV, 25 News Now.
There was one more applicant, but Adolph Robles Jr. dropped out of the race. And here's your viewer poll this evening. Scan that QR code on your screen to vote now. Here is the question: who do you want to see appointed to fill the District 2 seat? Emmett Alvarez, Bridget Marshall, or Andrew Rokovich? Let's look at the numbers. 21% of the voters picking Alvarez, 14% picking Marshall, and 65% picking Rokovich. We thank you for voting, and we want to hear from you. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part. Authorities have charged this man with murder. 50-year-old Willard Willis Baugh, also charged with aggravated assault against a public servant and tampering with evidence. Police say it happened Saturday around 11 a.m. on the 4500 block of North John Stockbauer Drive. The woman killed, identified as 44-year-old Brandy Baugh. Willard Baugh held without bond. A fourth teen now charged in an assault case in Jackson County. Braxton Warren charged with engaging in organized criminal activity assault. He is bonded out of jail. He and 3 other teens are charged in the case. They were all baseball players for the Industrial ISD. The incident happened on April 27th. Friday, the U.S. Marshals arrested 21-year-old Joseph Rivera at a house in the 600 block of East Morgan Street in Cuero. Rivera accused of firing several rounds into a Lancaster, Pennsylvania home last year, hitting a juvenile who was not the intended victim. He faces attempted criminal homicide and 2 other charges. Rivera was out on bond in Victoria County for illegally carrying a weapon. Rivera was transported to the DeWitt County Jail, where he is awaiting extradition to Pennsylvania. Sunday's storm caused several traffic signals to go out in Victoria. It also caused this tree damage north of Zach Lenz Parkway and east of North Navarro Street. The Refugio County Press reports winds over 40 miles an hour hit Beeville Sunday. Authorities said high winds caused several power and telephone poles to break on the northern end of Beeville. Now let's take a first look at your forecast with First Orange Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Mac Perez. Well, Mac, it's a shame that all that storm damage happened because of the winds. I did kind of like the rain we got.
Yes, I think we all enjoyed the rain. I'm sorry about the damage, but that's part of the problem. The good news is that finally the Dome of Doom gave us a break and gave us some showers, and we've got a chance for some more coming in. Right now it's a very comfortable 83 degrees out there, you know, as opposed to the 90s. And we did get up to 98 degrees today right at about 2 o'clock, and then the clouds appeared and the showers rolled around. We'll talk about more of that activity tomorrow coming up in just a moment.
Mac, thank you. The convicted North Texas high school shooter will spend more than a decade behind bars. Monday, a jury sentenced Timothy Simpkins to 12 years in prison. Simpkins was found guilty of attempted capital murder for shooting 3 people at Bansfield Timberview High School in October of 2021. The jury deliberated for about 6 hours before unanimously deciding Simpkins' fate. His punishment includes a fine of $6,000. Governor Greg Abbott has signed 2 Texas property tax relief bills into law. KVUE reports the bills were passed this month in a second special legislative session. The deal's money is coming from the state's $34 billion budget surplus. Under the legislation, the state would send money to school districts throughout Texas to help lower tax rates. It also raises the homestead exemption to $100,000 so long as voters give it the green light in November. Governor Abbott has responded to federal government requests to take down the floating buoy barrier by saying, quote, "See you in court, Mr. President," unquote. The federal government answering back by filing a lawsuit today.
The Department of Justice now suing the state of Texas for installing this 1,000-foot buoy barrier in the Rio Grande River to deter migrants from crossing from Mexico into the U.S. The lawsuit claims Texas defied federal law by not seeking authorization prior to installing the floating barrier, saying it presents serious risks to the environment, navigation, and public safety, and violates a number of laws. Abbott sending a letter to President Biden saying the Constitution grants Texas the sovereign interest to protect its borders, adding Texas will see you in court, Mr. President. On Monday, the White House responding just before the lawsuit was filed.
Instead of coming to the table and trying to figure out a way to work together, he continues to do this really cruel, unjust, inhumane ways of moving forward.
This as border crossings were already down more than 30% before the barrier was installed, and since Title 42 expired and the Biden administration put stricter restrictions into place. Meantime, an investigation is ongoing by the Texas Department of Public Safety Inspector General following allegations of inhumane treatment after a state trooper wrote a letter alleging orders were given to push migrants, including children, back into the river and refuse them water amid the record-setting heat. Texas DPS claims the trooper misinterpreted the order.
If a member from one of our leadership or a supervisor tells a trooper to push back migrants, what that means is to verbally tell them, go to a port of entry.
Melissa Adon, ABC News, Los Angeles.
In the continuing story about the sudden resignation of Texas A&M University's president, the Texas Tribune reported black students at the university are now left without representation of someone who has the experience of a faculty member who cares about what she does and someone who genuinely loves her field. Catherine Banks' resignation comes after backlash of how A&M handled the recruitment of Professor Kathleen McElroy. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Then when you're on YouTube, you can see Crossroads Today. And stay with us. Coming up on 25 News now at 10, Elon Musk has transformed Twitter into X. Also ahead, some film students wondering about their future as actors remain on strike.
Edwin Gregrick is your military hero for the month of July. Edwin was born in Ganado and was active in sports, playing football and track, and then enlisted in the United States Army in 1946. At this time, many were drafted in the Army, but Edwin liked the idea of getting his college paid for, so he enlisted.
After basic training, I went to the Army Medical School for enlisted personnel. And there we were taught like anatomy and physiology of the human body, of all the parts and what they did.
Edwin would become an Army medic and was sent overseas to the Philippines taking care of soldiers. Edwin was later transferred to Japan from the Philippines, a time he'll never forget because the trek to Japan was done on a tugboat.
And they put us on, transferred 10 of us out of there, and they put us on a seagoing tugboat. It had accommodations for a crew of 3, and they put 10 of us on there, and we stayed on there for 3 days and almost 3 nights. And when we landed in Okinawa, it was like cold. They had a cold front came through there, and it was like 35 degrees, and it was kind of a misty, heavy fog and rain. And then this captain of this tugboat pulled in this dock there, and he said, "This is as far as I'm taking you folks." He said, "I called the hospital and they're gonna come pick you up." But I said, "In the meantime, I want you to stay right here on this dock. Don't go anywhere. Don't set foot above anywhere off of this dock. Don't go over there to that building or walk on that lawn over there. Well, there's lots of unexploded war toys there."
In Japan, he would do intakes of soldiers, figuring out what was wrong with them and then send them to the correct doctor. From there, he was transferred to the 609 Quartermaster Graves Registration in Manila, Philippines, where he would identify the skeletal remains of soldiers to make sure those bodies got back to their families, as well as to bury the dead, a more grim side of the military many are probably unaware of.
I presume that most of the people don't know anything about graves registration, and I didn't either until I was part of it. When I got to this graves registration place, it was about 15 miles out in the country, out of Manila there. 15 miles from nowhere. It was way, way out there. Yeah. And it is a huge, huge cemetery. It's probably the biggest cemetery I have ever seen in my life. It was probably more than a half mile wide and more than a mile long. And it was called World Cemetery because anybody that died as a result of World War II, regardless of who they were, what they did, or anything else, they were privileged of being buried there. And there was a lot of Americans buried there.
It wasn't exactly what he wanted to do, but it was his task, and he rose to the occasion to serve his country.
Yeah, well, that's what I was signed to, and you didn't have no choice. That's what you did. You went and did what they said.
Edwin briefly went to Papua New Guinea, sent to recover the remains of soldiers who were in a B-17 bomber which had crashed there, but the mission had to be scrapped, and it might surprise you as to why.
We got all that lined up, and we were getting ready to go, and then the day we were supposed to go, this guide come by. He said he's not going to go there. We said, why? He said, well, he talked to a village chief about 15 miles from where we were, and he told me about, he knew about that airplane and where it was and everything I needed to know about it. But he said, don't go there because there's cannibals there. So we had to scratch that project.
After the military, Edwin went to pharmacy school at UT in Austin, and he didn't hold it against me that I'm a Sooner. So, Edwin, this is for you. Hook 'em horns.
And we processed lots of remains. And then I was sent home and discharged in 49. And I went to college and went to pharmacy school and started practicing pharmacy in 53.
After college, he worked in retail and hospital pharmacies for much of his career before retiring in 2006. Edwin will be 95 next month and still gets around just fine. He's been attending an exercise class 3 times a week since the 90s. It's probably why he's in such great shape.
See, I go to exercise 3 times a week to our health center. And she and I have been in there since 1999.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been going to exercise class for over 20 years.
What's that?
You've been in that class for over 20 years.
Close to 24 years, yeah, 1999. 3 times a week, 1 hour, hour Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, for 3 times a week.
Edwin has 2 sons and a daughter and 2 granddaughters and still stays plenty busy, saying that whatever it takes to get him off the couch.
Well, I'm a master gardener. I work at the airport, and I work with Warriors Weekend here, and I'm a civilian police academy.
So thank you, Edwin, for your service to your country. for his full 40-minute extended interview of his time in the Army and everything he did while he was there, please come to crossroadstoday.com for a link to watch that extended cut. He's got some pretty amazing stories. Adam Seibel, KAVU TV 25 News Now.
Elon Musk has turned Twitter into X. He's completely changed the identity of one of the internet's most well-known brands in one fell swoop. It comes less than a year after he acquired the company for $44 billion last October and took it private. Some see the move as him trying to save the platform in the face of mounting pressure from Threads, which was launched earlier this month by Meta. Musk has also repeatedly warned the company is on the verge of bankruptcy. Actors remain on the picket lines as the SAG-AFTRA strike continues, and now some film students are wondering about their futures. Recent graduates of film schools are trying to get a foot in the door of the industry at an uncertain time. Bill Marinella is a casting director based in Savannah, Georgia. His advice to those ready to start out in the film industry is not to sit and wait for the strike to end, but rather to be productive.
I would recommend that you use this downtime to make contacts, improve your resume, make your own little movies with your friends. The iPhone has an iMovie on it, and start getting ready for the work that will come once this has all been resolved. That's what I would recommend.
He believes the strike will end sometime around the holidays.
Yikes. Well, anyway, good evening, everybody. This is what we saw this afternoon. It was nice, cloud cover, a little rain rolling through the area. And the good news, there's more coming. So how lucky can we get? Well, we'll talk about that coming up in a moment. Well, good evening, everybody. Continuing our discussion on the atmosphere, little by little, I'm going to tell you stuff that I have studied over the many years that I've been doing this. But at Mauna Loa, which is a volcano in Hawaii, okay? I mean, that's the middle of absolute nowhere. Up there, they have these sensors that they put in 1958. And so since 1958, they've been monitoring the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Okay, I started talking right about here. And so we had about 350 parts per million. And now we have 425 parts per million. So just in those 20 years, we've increased the amount of carbon dioxide by 25%. So you can imagine it's hot. That's adding to the heat. It's just the reality of weather there. Anyway, we are now at 83 degrees. We did get up to 98 this afternoon till the clouds, popped up out of nowhere and gave us some very nice little rain shower activity. This is what we had over the weekend. North Victoria up by the Walmart got about 25 hundredths. Raisin got 87 hundredths. Cuero got 23, but in DeWitt County, Stratton really came in at 1.5 inches, and I think it was Ganado that got almost 3 inches. So some of the storms are heavier. Today in our area, they weren't very strong, but they did sort of help out there in the afternoon and knock the temperature down. Why are we all of a sudden in the rain business? Well, the Dome of Doom has finally moved and released some of the pressure that it was holding us under. Got to show you this, the Saharan dust layer is about to roll into Texas. As a matter of fact, the TCEQ, the Texas TC Center for Environmental Quality, there you go, put out an advisory this afternoon that dust will be rolling into Texas. A, you're going to see redder sunsets, and B, some of you with, breathing problems, and maybe even allergies are going to be dealing with it. If you notice something kind of weird in the atmosphere, that's what's going to be coming. Well, for us, the Dome of Doom has finally moved away, and it is going to be moving up and then north into the plains. So within the next couple of days, you're going to be hearing about 100-degree temperatures throughout Kansas, Nebraska, the Dakotas, Iowa, Missouri. They're going to be suffering just like we were suffering. I'm not saying that but they should be prepared after what we've been through. But all of a sudden, what that means is that the Gulf door is open, and we have a better shot at getting some sort of shower activity around here for at least a few days. Now, we've got two areas of concern right about here. This one is right off the coast of the Lesser Antilles. 20% chance that something could form. That's fairly low. And this one off the coast of Florida, 20% still fairly low. In other words, there's no definite possibility this will become a tropical storm, but there are areas of disturbed weather that we've got to watch. For those of you in Port Lavaca, we're getting up to 94 tomorrow, and you will have a couple of more afternoon showers. And for those of you in Cuero, we're getting up to 97. You get a little cloud cover, and hopefully you'll get one little shower around the area. Otherwise, for the rest of the crossroads, we're looking for 30% for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then a decrease in the amount of shower activity. So it'll be warm and humid, but it'll not feel like it did feel last week or 2 weeks ago. That is your 7-day forecast. I want to remind everybody we do have a QR code. We'd love for you to scan that and put Crossroads Today on your cell phone. And now here's Gina with sports.
The Victoria Generals were off today, but they'll be back in action tomorrow. That's coming up after the break. At a crossroads, it's a battle for the silver boot down in Houston between the Texas Rangers and the Astros. The Rangers got on board first with a 2-run bomb by Josh Young to take the early lead. But Tasmanian Devil answered right back as he knocks one to center field. This one hits off the top of the wall for a stand-up double to take the lead. But later in the game, the Astros were down by 3 again, and McCormick says, hey, I'll just repeat it this time, but this time it'll be considered a home run. This one goes off the wall and would be a home run and tied the game at 9 in the bottom of the 7th. And we just got a final score for that one. The Houston Astros go on to win 10-9. Diaz singles to right field, and Tucker would come in to score. Wow, good game for the Astros. They'll play again against the Rangers coming up soon. Also, new allegations of hazing involving Northwestern University's sports team. A member of the women's volleyball team is suing the university, saying she's experienced hazing, harassment, bullying, and retaliation. The person claims that she had to run extra as punishment for breaking the team's COVID-19 rules and was injured because of that training, and also that her coaches did not play her because she spoke up. Meanwhile, a 4th player on the football team is suing the university. Lloyd Yates says he was sexually assaulted by his teammates as part of a hazing ritual. At least 15 former players say they plan to sue the university over what they say is a toxic culture within the football program. The Victoria Generals are on a break tonight and are on a 3-game win streak after last night. Generals pitcher Cody Gibbs was on the mound, but he needed some help on the offensive side of the ball. The Generals gave him some help, but the River Monsters said, hey, we'll give you a hand too. The defense playing up, but this time getting the out at first, and an errant throw to second would bring 1 run in. And shortly after that, Robert Newland was at the plate, and he gets hit by the ball with bases loaded to bring in another run. The River Monsters again helped the Generals, this time a pass ball to help bring home Reed Spinrath, giving the Generals a lead 5-3. The River Monsters did make a comeback to tie the game at 6 apiece in the 8th inning, but the Generals stayed hot and scored multiple runs to score 2 more runs to win the game 8-6. The Generals will host the Bombers for a 2-game series starting tomorrow at 7 at Riverside Stadium. The top draft pick for the Houston Texans in the 2023 NFL Draft is now under contract for the next 4 years. The number 2 overall pick signed a $36.3 million deal, which is fully guaranteed. That's according to 2 reporters. The duo also reported that the deal also includes a $23 million signing bonus up front, which is a first for the Texans organization. Stroud is from Ohio State University, where he had over 8,000 yards, 85 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions in his 2 seasons. Saudi Arabia Soccer submits the world record bid for Kylian Mbappe. That's according to multiple reports. Saudi Arabia Soccer Club bid for over $330 million for the striker from France. The current world record fee is $262 million. That was back when Neymar moved from Barcelona to PSG back in 2017. Well, that's your sports. Don, back to you.
I bet he gets a kick out of making that much funny.
I'm sure he did.
Thank you, Gino. Stay with us. Coming up on 25 News now at 10. We'll take a last look at your weather. Plus, a father saves his child after the infant was locked inside a hot car. Trailblazing American women who will be featured on U.S. quarters was selected. The specially designed coins, part of the U.S. Mint's American Women Quarters program, which aims to celebrate the accomplishments and contributions of women in the shaping of our country. The 2024 coins will recognize Reverend Dr. Pauli Murray, the Honorable Patsy Mink, Dr. Mary Edwards Walker, and Celia Cruz. A father desperately broke the windshield of his car in a South Texas grocery store's parking lot last Wednesday. He had accidentally locked his keys inside with his infant trapped in the car. Shortly after the father broke the glass, the child's mother climbed inside and handed him the baby. First responders in Harlingen arrived after the infant was freed and determined it was not harmed. No charges were filed against the parents. I wonder about that, because especially obviously in the heat. But how do you forget you have an infant in the car? I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's
a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand
if you're so busy, you left the keys in the car and you locked it, and then there's a baby. Wow, that's
a double whammy.
2 strikes right about there.
Well, at least he did the right thing and broke the windshield.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
he get in there. He didn't wait. And,
got to fix it.
You know,
if he hadn't, who would know?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. Well, folks, the heat goes on, so let's all be careful with anybody we leave in the back seat of a car. But we do have a shot at some shower activity every afternoon from now until about Thursday. Then it thins out a little bit as we get to the weekend, but you can't rule it out because guess what? The Dome of Doom is no longer in charge of us. We're going to be on our own and have a regular July weekend coming up.
All right, Mac, thank you. And finally tonight, some Florida deputies had a busy weekend. The Flagler County Sheriff's Office responded to multiple reports of alligators in residential areas. One post said there was a 5-foot gator, quote, in an area where children frequently play, unquote. The post said deputies took care of business until a trapper was able to get there. In another post, deputies caught a baby alligator from a resident's driveway. The Flagler Sheriff's Office captioned one post, BRB, adding alligator wrangler to resumes. They can laugh
See you later,
now.
alligator to the gator.
Yeah, I'm sure the gators are looking for cooler water since the swamps are getting so cold. A swimming pool or something.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us for 25 News Now at 10. Join us for 25 News Now Sunrise starting at 5 a.m. Good night, everybody.